Welcome into Fantasy Filmball. My name's Dyl. I'm riding solo today because I have a bold proclamation that I'm ready to defend right here on the channel. And I mean, you have seen the title here today, so before you race to the comments to tell me how crazy I may be, or on the flip side, blast this video over to Stan Twitter and say, oh my gosh, some guy with like only 1,000 subscribers on YouTube supports our girl's film going all the way at the Oscars, please hear me out. So we need to face the facts here. Wicked, it's for real. It's in the awards conversation. Whether if you like it or not, it has cemented itself inside of this race. For months, people have been determined to dismiss John M. Chu's adaptation of the iconic Broadway musical, saying it has no shot at the big awards. And if you mention Best Picture or even talk about the technical elements of this film, people will come out of the woodwork calling you crazy, saying those are dumb predictions, dragging you in the comments, dragging you on Reddit. And to be honest, a lot of that criticism was very warranted. We've seen recent stage-to-screen musicals fall flat on their face. In the Heights, critically loved by the same director, it couldn't make a dent inside awards season. Then we had Wonka just last year, major box office hit, major movie stars throughout the cast, yet left awards season in a dust. So what makes Wicked different this year? Well, here's the thing. I think that Wicked can defy gravity and pull off the unthinkable, a Best Picture win. So let me take you through why I think Wicked could actually take home film's biggest prize this year. First, I want to talk about the undeniable box office performance with Wicked because I think it's its first avenue inside of awards season. It's just this massive box office success. It's already become the highest grossing musical of all time, unadjusted for inflation. And then if it continues with the same type of run it's having right now, it has these insane, remarkable, magnormous holds from week to week. I could easily see this landing inside the top 5 all-time adjusted for inflation, alongside behemoths of the musical genre like The Sound of Music and Grease. And think about it, I guess, on a deep level here. Wicked, it could remain a top contender at the box office well into January. You look at the rest of the slate here in December, what we have in early January, this thing is still going to be making money in the thick of nominations and voting season for the Academy Awards. And now, yes, box office alone doesn't equal a Best Picture win, and if it did, we would see major MCU films each year rack up nominations and wins inside the biggest category there is. But here's the thing with Wicked, it isn't just raking in the cash. It's resonating with audiences far and wide. Look at that 96 overall on Rotten Tomatoes for its audience score, a 73 on Metacritic, and then an A cinema score. We've seen films very recently, like Barbie, like Oppenheimer last year, keep their box office dominance for a month and dominate the conversation during the entirety of its theatrical run, and I can definitely see Wicked mirroring those this year. And because what makes Wicked stand out much more than a lot of the other major box office juggernauts we've had this year is its potential with the industry appeal. We have Golden Globe nominations come out any day. We're going to have predictions here on the channel, so definitely stay tuned for that. And while we all know the Golden Globes, they're skewing more and more international and a little bit more highbrow each year, Wicked really does check off all the right boxes to get nominations from top to bottom at this award show. Because it's a film that has all the classic elements of an iconic movie musical. It has the spectacle, it has the heart, and yes, it has those songs. So all I want to say is don't be shocked, don't be surprised when Wicked is popular with the Golden Globes later this week. It could rack up nominations for Best Picture, Musical or Comedy, Best Musical Comedy Actress for Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande in Supporting Actress, and you know, let's go crazy a little bit. I can see a world where John M. Chu gets in for Director, and I can see a world where Jonathan Bailey gets in for Supporting Actor. If the love is here for Wicked, if it is here for real in the industry, and if we're taking it seriously as a Best Picture contender, which maybe I don't even have it winning right now, but I can see the avenue for it, these are nominations that would 100% be on the table. And honestly, this is where things get really interesting because we saw last year, brand new award at the Golden Globes, a box office achievement, and there's a lot of films you could award this to this year, and I think it'll be very interesting to see what do the Golden Globes do for this award. Is it just the highest grossing film? Is it the film that made the most money? Is it the film that made a lot of money, but also they really enjoy? And sure, you could point to some other contenders this year, but I think this award is entirely in Wicked's bag, and I wouldn't be shocked if it bags that one, in addition to, like I said before, maybe a Revo, maybe Grande, and it can build itself a package, and it can keep the momentum going, and it sparks the conversation starter right here at the Golden Globes. And as I just talked about, in addition to the Golden Globes, it has to have this industry support to cement itself throughout the entirety of awards season. And another award show I could see Wicked doing very well at is the SAG Awards. Because I didn't know this a few years ago, and maybe you don't even know this right now. The Actors Block is one of the largest voting blocks inside the Academy at large. It's top 2, right up there with the producers, and I can see this being where Wicked's real path to not just a Best Picture nomination, but a Best Picture win starting up. Because one thing everyone agrees about with Wicked is that it has a stellar ensemble cast, from Ariana Grande to Cynthia Erivo to everyone in between. And if SAG recognizes Wicked with the Best Ensemble win, that's a huge indicator for Best Picture down the line. Just look at this list of recent SAG winners. The correlation with Best Picture, the proof is in the pudding right here. And that's why I say if Wicked wins Best Ensemble at SAG, you have to mark my words. It's going to start gaining some serious momentum in the Best Picture win conversation. And let's not forget Ariana Grande, Cynthia Erivo. They're both very likely to not just be nominated, but to be win competitive in the mix here at the SAG Awards, which could just further solidify the film's presence in the overall race. And yes, I hear the cynics out there. SAG does not always translate to an Oscar win. Go back to last year, we have Lily Gladstone losing out for Killers of the Flower Moon after winning at SAG. But the difference here with Wicked and what Killers of the Flower Moon and Gladstone didn't really have for it last year is just the broader industry appeal and support from top to bottom. We saw Poor Things was the much stronger film of the season last year, and that's why Emma Stone went on to win. And if Wicked is clicking at all of these awards bodies and it wins SAG Ensemble, it's just bolstering its case for a potential Best Picture win. Because hear me out, look at some other award shows and some other guilds we have for technical and craft work: production design, costume design, editing, makeup, sound. I think it's in contention for nominations, if not wins, in a lot of those categories. And getting those nominations at the other award shows just shows the appeal goes beyond the acting. It could just be a full-on industry favorite that's checking all the right boxes on the road to the Oscars. And as I just said before, in addition to acting, the other largest voting block inside the Academy is the producer. So our next stop is going to be the Producers Guild Awards. And let's be real, when a film wins the PGA, that is honestly maybe even a stronger sign for its chances in Best Picture than SAG Ensemble. PGA, I mean, again, I just said for SAG, I'm gonna put the list up again here. Look at this correlation to Best Picture. They rarely miss in their choices. And yes, Wicked is a box office sensation, but they show here, and this will be a sign if Wicked is not for real, if it's something like Anora or Sing Sing or Conclave or Brutalist or Emilia Perez. PGA, they go for what is the strongest film inside of the industry at that very moment. Look to just a few years ago with Coda. No one expected that to win PGA. No one expected that to win Best Picture at that time in the race. And guess what it did? It shocked. It surprised everyone in that moment because the producers were invested in that film. And honestly, that's why I can see Wicked following a similar path. The whole industry has been talking about how weak this year's race feels with no clear frontrunner. Well, I kind of feel like we now have a film that can appeal to all branches and all demographics of the Academy. And before you start telling me, oh, this film, that film, let's run through some of these other films. First up is going to be Anora, which is currently the consensus frontrunner for Best Picture. And honestly, it makes total sense to me. The film won the Palme d'Or. It has had a commanding presence throughout all of the festival circuit and performed pretty well at the limited domestic box office. My main concern with Anora, though, is its appeal to older audience members at the Academy. And I will admit right here, my perspective is a little skewed. Everyone's perspective is a little skewed for when they go out to the theater. But for me, I have seen this film 3 times with 3 different audiences, and it's had the same reaction at every one of those screenings. The older audiences out there didn't seem to really respond very well to the film. They found the frequent sex scenes and nudity to be very overwhelming. I saw every time I went to a screening of Anora, people covering their face, turning away, leaving the cinema because the abundance of sex scenes and nudity was just overwhelming. And don't get me wrong, we've seen films with explicit content win Oscars before. Just look last year, Poor Things, Yorgos Lanthimos, filled of sexual content. But I think the biggest difference between something like Poor Things or Everything All at Once compared to Anora, and was a lot less frequent and had more subtlety to it than what Anora does. But again, I don't want it to sound like I hate Anora video. I really enjoy Anora. Another film I really enjoy that kind of seems in the Best Picture race but also has a lot working against it is A24's Sing Sing. And it initially seemed like the early frontrunner out of last year's TIFF, but after a disastrous theatrical release, the buzz, it's all but fizzled. And personally, like I just said, it's one of my favorites of the year, so it's disappointing to see this film stall out. Though A24 could certainly revive its momentum during awards season, they've come out and said they're going to re-release the film, and honestly, Sing Sing's trajectory is a lot of what I'm talking about for Wicked right here. It's through PGA, it's through SAG. But the issue here is, if A24 faltered the first time around, why should we believe they pull it off successfully with a re-release? And then that brings me to A24's other juggernaut in this awards season, The Brutalist from Brady Corbet, which is offering something completely different than any other film we've talked about here today. It's a return to a classic, old school style of filmmaking that's been absent for decades. Corbet honestly could just dominate the Best Director race, and history has shown that a strong push in director often leads to a top 3 bid in the Best Picture win contention. However, it's also worth noting those films that tend to dominate the Best Director race sometimes lack the passion they need to win the Best Picture race on a preferential ballot. Look to stuff like The Power of the Dog, look to stuff like Roma. These films were lauded in the Best Director race, but struggled at the Oscars. And yes, there's other films in contention. We have Emilia Perez, we have Conclave. I'll talk a little bit more about those later, because I want to dive into the last stop on our Oscar journey for Wicked, which is the Oscars themselves. And I think this film has cemented itself as a viable contender in this Best Picture win conversation, because things get very interesting when you talk about Best Picture at the Oscars. I've talked about PGA, I haven't talked about BAFTA, CCA. There's so many award shows out there. Most of those award shows are just about what movie is at number 1. What is the most loved movie across the voting body? That's the movie that walks away with the win. But the Oscars, it's not that easy. The process is long, it's complicated, and very convoluted. But if you're interested in learning more about the preferential ballot that the Academy uses to determine its Best Picture winner, I highly recommend checking out Ryan Cassleman's video on this topic. He's a friend of the channel, he plays in our Filmball game, and he put together a fantastic and in-depth breakdown of the process, offering a detailed first-hand look at how it all works. It will be linked up in the title card above, as well as in the description box down below. But as I already discussed, the 2 major voting bodies in the Academy, it's the actors, it's the producers, and Wicked's path to Best Picture extends even further than just those 2 branches, because I mentioned this before. Long before the film even emerged as a serious contender, it was already expected to be a strong contender in the below-the-line categories, and since its release, it's only shot up to possible win sweeps throughout the Guild season. We look at production design, we look at costuming for Wicked. These categories seem so strong for this film at this very moment. Wicked has propelled itself into a position where it is a true contender for the biggest prize of all, Best Picture, because I think Wicked is just this unique film that we have inside awards season this year. And honestly, we haven't seen a film like this inside our race for about 20 years, to the last musical that did win Best Picture being Chicago. Because yes, you can make comparisons back to La La Land. The issue of La La Land is that had a director coming along with it and had screenplay coming along with it. Wicked probably isn't having those things because of the current makeup of the director's branch, which skews way more international and way more highbrow than something like Wicked. We've seen Top Gun miss out, we've seen Elvis miss out, we've seen Barbie miss out. Why would they show up for John M. Chu? And then in addition, in the screenplay category, it's a stage to screen adaptation. Those just do not happen at the Academy anymore. But back to my main point here inside this video. If Wicked keeps gathering industry support from all corners of the Academy, and who knows, maybe it even breaks into director, maybe even breaks into screenplay, but from the actors, to the producers, to the technicians and the craftsmen and women of the Academy, it could very well become the film that everyone rallies behind. Not to mention the whole political angle behind Wicked and the parallels of the film to the real life world. All I'll say is, open up Twitter, you can see how Wicked, the real world, overlap pretty seamlessly. So we've made it this far inside the video, and you may be asking, Dylan, if Wicked can win Best Picture, what would be its overall package? We've seen films like Coda only win 2 additional awards, and we've seen films like Oppenheimer steamroll a competition and take home multiple major prizes. And for me, I think Wicked's path starts in the craft categories, as I said before. Production design, costume design, those 2 I think are in Wicked's bag. And then if this is a Best Picture win contender, if it's taking home the big prize, Grande, Arrivo, they could come along as well, and that seems like a pretty great package. 4 awards plus Best Picture. Other nominations can include sound, it can include editing, it can include makeup and hairstyling, and hey, Jonathan Bailey, hey, John M. Chu, you're not that far off. So now that's gonna bring me to my last statement that I want to make about Wicked's overall Oscar prospects. And I want to make one thing clear. This is all a hypothetical. Who knows, in a week's time, maybe I won't really be on this wave anymore. Maybe a lot of other people out there have moved on, because we are entering the thick of awards season. There'll be new awards given out almost each and every day, from regional critics to national critics to international critics to industry awards. There is so much going on in awards season in December. So if you want to stay on top of all of it, consider subscribing here to Fantasy Filmball, joining our Discord in the link down below. We talk about it all each and every day. But here's the thing. No one can really predict the future of awards season with complete certainty, but I've had this gut feeling all season long. I've said in our prediction videos, I've said in the Discord, and now I'll say it here once again. No major contender so far has felt like the winner, but I've been waiting for a contender to step up and emerge, and I feel like potentially Wicked could be that film. And at least for me personally, looking at the current slate of Best Picture contenders, I honestly think it will come down to a head-to-head race between Wicked and a film I haven't talked about yet, Conclave. Because what Conclave has going for it is the complete opposite of Wicked. It doesn't have much technical or craft work support, but it's going to have love from the director's branch. It's going to have love from the screenwriter's branch. Because I can see the ultimate showdown between the traditional Academy Awards friendly film like Conclave and the bold all-in musical like Wicked, where Wicked can navigate the preferential ballot effectively, pulling in those first place votes without bottoming out of too many lower votes on the overall ballot. It could very well become a major Oscar surprise that we never saw coming. Because sure, Conclave, it can take home the BAFTA, it can win adapted screenplay, but when it comes to the Oscars, I think Wicked has a real shot to pull off that major upset. Because yes, last year was an exception with Oppenheimer, and the Nomadland was an exception as well, but typically BAFTA, Oscars, they don't overlap because of the preferential ballot versus the first place votes. BAFTA, it's all about who has the most love for you. While with the Oscars, it's about the love from top to bottom. So in closing, is Wicked going to win Best Picture? Honestly, who really knows? It's too soon to say for sure, but don't be surprised if this becomes one of the year's biggest surprises. You gotta keep your eyes on this one, because when it comes to awards season, this is one film that I personally think could just defy gravity. But if you made this far inside the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more hot takes throughout awards season. But until next time, this is Fantasy Filmball. My name's Dyl. Peace.